Cade adjusted the strap on his gauntlet with the sort of weary precision that came from knowing exactly how long he had before things got very, very stupid. The arena roared around him, a sea of alien voices layered in a dozen dialects, sharp with excitement, sour with expectation. Banners of light rippled overhead, each pulse matching the thrum of his heart, too fast and much too loud. "Last time I agreed to a diplomatic exchange program," he muttered, shifting his stance on the arena's textured floor. "You did not agree," Radix corrected in his ear, the AI's voice smug as ever. "You lost a bet." Semantics. A new surge of noise cascaded down the stone and metal tiers as the opposite gate hissed open. Out stepped Ravala. Tall, gliding, dangerous. Her armor shimmered like graphite in motion, reflecting the arena lights in shifting waves. Her skin was a deep blue, marked by lines of silver that pulsed faintly with each step, a biometric symphony. Her eyes found him almost instantly. Unreadable. Calculating. Cade gulped. Opponent visual confirmed, Radix noted. Warning, her win-to-fatality ratio is. Don't tell me. I'm still pretending I have a chance. He stepped forward, boots clicking into the grav-stabilized ring. Drones zipped overhead, broadcasting the event live across half the known galaxy. A distorted voice boomed above them in 2 languages. Welcome to the 12th cycle of the Grand Trials. Representing the Vortari Guard, Ravala storms hard. And from Earth, Cade. What, no last name? Vortari cultural custom, Radix supplied. Withholding a full name implies either disdain or flirtation. Fantastic. Either I'm a joke, or she wants to date punch me. The gong sounded, low, resonant, and far too final. Ravala didn't charge. She didn't need to. She approached like inevitability made flesh. Cade's instincts screamed, but his training, or what little of it applied to intergalactic duel etiquette, kept him rooted. When she struck, it was a blur. He barely ducked. A follow-up sweep caught his ankle, he stumbled but rolled with it, momentum carrying him to a crouch. "So," he said, breathless, "this your idea of flirting?" She didn't answer. Not with words. But her lips twitched. A smile? A threat? They circled. His boots scraped across the arena's textured polymer, designed to grip under pressure. Hers glided silently. He jabbed. She flowed. He lunged. She vanished and reappeared beside him, fingers brushing his arm before twisting, a flip. He hit the mat with a grunt. "Strong wrists," she murmured. "You should see my handshake. Total crowd pleaser." She tilted her head. Those silver-lined eyes studied him. The crowd noise dimmed, as if the arena itself leaned closer to listen. He got up. Barely. "Round 2, he panted, "human style, chaos, sarcasm, and poor life choices." "Noted," said Radix. "Your strategy remains statistically improbable." Cade grinned. Then charged. What followed was less a fight and more a strange dance, choreographed by accident and instinct. They clashed, elbow to elbow, wrist to gauntlet, breath to breath. Her blows were precise, his counters erratic. Somewhere between a leg sweep and a half-hearted taunt, he realized he was enjoying this. Not the pain, per se, but the connection. She caught his wrist again, flipped him, again, and this time pinned him with a knee against his chest. Getting familiar, he wheezed. "You are unexpected," she said softly. He blinked. Her face hovered close, unreadable still, but no longer aloof. "You're not bad yourself," he muttered, "for someone trying to rearrange my spine." She didn't move. Her hand stayed on his chest longer than necessary. And then, abruptly, she stood. Cade lay there for a moment, chest heaving, mind whirring. She'd let him up. Not out of pity. Something else. He rose, slower this time, bones protesting. So, do I call you Ravala, or is this still that cultural flirt disdain gray area? You may call me Ravala, she said at last. And you are Kate of Earth. He blinked. Full name this time. We progressing? You endure, she said. That is, noteworthy. Cade smirked. I like to leave an impression. Preferably not crater-shaped. They met again, but the pace shifted. Faster now. Smoother. Her strike still had purpose, but not lethal intent. And his responses sharpened, no longer flailing but adapting. Each blow exchanged like a question, each dodge an answer. Then it happened. Mid-spar, mid-jump, the arena's gravity pulse glitched. For a fraction of a second, they were weightless. He flailed. She did not. Ravala twisted mid-air, caught his arm, and used his momentum to guide him back down, gently, even. When gravity returned, he was on his back again, her kneeling beside him. Starting to think you like pinning me. You are easier to understand when still. Wow. Romantic. She tilted her head. Is that your intent? He blinked. Then laughed, which hurt. A lot. I honestly don't know anymore. The gong rang again. No victor declared. Draw, Radix whispered. Official match result, inconclusive. The crowd buzzed, confused, intrigued. This wasn't what they'd expected. Not from a Vortari duel. Not from a human. Ravala offered her hand. Cade stared. Then took it. Her grip was strong, fingers calloused, precise. She helped him up with barely a flick of effort. You have proven your resilience, she said. I do what I can, he grinned, mostly through sarcasm and not dying. Her eyes narrowed, but not unkindly. You are, strange. Earth's finest. As they left the arena, side by side beneath the watching drones and whispering diplomats, Cade realized something had shifted, not in strategy, but in soul. And Ravala, warrior of the Vortari, walked with him not ahead, not behind. Beside. And that, somehow, was the real victory. Cade's ribs ached in time with the soft hiss of the med station's regenerator patch. Every breath tugged at bruises in new and innovative ways. He lay back on the padded surface and groaned like a man twice his age, or at least one who'd just been suplexed by an alien warrior with graceful contempt. You're lucky to be alive, the medbot informed him in its dry, nonplussed tone. I get that a lot, he muttered. On the hollow screen above, a replay of the duel played on loop. The moment gravity glitched. The way Ravala caught him midair and brought him down with absurd control. Not violence, something more deliberate. More, intimate. Cade didn't know how to label it. Then the door slid open with a whisper. He expected another drone, maybe a diplomatic officer here to make sure he wasn't about to sue someone into another war. Instead, it was her. Ravala. Not in armor. In a simple slate gray flight jacket and fitted trousers. Her silver-lined tattoos were brighter without the distraction of metal. You came to gloat, he asked, lifting a brow. I came to see if your bones had reassembled. Well, some of them are still on strike. Especially the ones around dignity. She walked to the side of the med unit and held out a cup. He squinted at it. Is that, coffee? Vortari recovery tea. Brewed from moss. Right. Delicious. He took a sip. It sparkles. It is enzymatic. Enzymes shouldn't sparkle. She watched him drink. Didn't smile. But her eyes, they warmed, just slightly. You fight strangely, she said after a while. Thank you. You move like instinct argues with reason, and instinct wins. Again, I think that's a compliment, but it also sounds like a diagnosis. I did not expect it. Cade set the cup aside. What did you expect? She was quiet for a breath. Then another. A simple contest. Efficient. Brutal. But then, you joked. You provoked. You saw me. Not as a symbol. Not as a warrior. Just as. Cade studied her. You saw me too. Not just the flailing guy with a death wish. You are still that, she said. He grinned. You confused the council, she added. Good. I like to keep things spicy. They requested joint training. Simulation missions. He blinked. Wait, like, together? Yes. Us. Cade's brain went sideways for a second. So we beat each other up, and now we're a team. Diplomatic progress is often nonlinear. He ran a hand through his hair. Great. When do we start? Dawn. He groaned. Of course it is. You people don't believe in sleeping in, do you? No. She rose to leave. Paused at the door. You surprised me, Cade of Earth. Not many do. I aim to bewilder. You succeed. She was gone before he could think of something witty to say. Humidity wrapped around Cade like a hot towel dipped in sarcasm. The simulated jungle was alive with color, sound, and menace. Tall, blue-leaved trees stretched overhead, their roots gnarled and wet. The air buzzed with insects, some mechanical, some organic, all annoying. You know, he said, swatting at something that looked like a cross between a dragonfly and a scalpel, I always imagined jungle training would be more Indiana Jones, less dying of sweaty irony. Ravala didn't respond. She glided ahead of him, barely disturbing the foliage. Her footfalls were soundless, her gaze alert. Environmental stress testing commencing, Radix noted in his earpiece. Your hydration levels are suboptimal, your heart rate elevated, and your sarcasm density nearing maximum saturation. Thanks, Rad, loving the encouragement. Cade stumbled over a root, caught himself, then looked up to find Ravala watching him. Your awareness is low. My coordination is medium-high, though. See? Didn't faceplant. Yet. She turned away, continuing forward. He trailed her through a maze of thick vegetation and softly hissing plants. The simulation's goal was simple, reach the beacon on the far end without dying. Of course, Vortari standards of simple lean toward cruel. As they moved deeper into the biome, the sounds grew stranger, howls, screeches, the occasional thud of something large and unseen. This would be a great place for a first date, Cade said. Earth dating customs are illogical. And yet charming. Like me. She paused. Looked back at him with a face that could have been carved from calm obsidian. You are not logical. But you are consistent. Thank you. That's probably the nicest thing you've ever said to me. Something rustled to their left. Without a word, Ravala shifted, crouched, hand to her blade. Cade mimicked her, though less gracefully. Out from the brush leapt a simulation predator, a sleek, six-legged creature with glinting chrome eyes and armor-spiked fur. It launched at Cade. He fumbled for his plasma baton, but it was Ravala who struck first. Vaulting over him in a blur, she landed on the creature's back and plunged her knife into its side. Sparks flew. The beast screeched and collapsed. Cade blinked. Remind me never to get on your bad side. You are already there. He grinned. But improving. She turned away. Was that a flicker of amusement in her eyes? Hours passed. They climbed a cliff of tangled vines. Crossed a ravine on a fallen log. He slipped once, and her hand shot out, catching his wrist with unflinching precision. She didn't let go right away. Thanks, he said, breathless. You weigh less than expected. Gee, thanks. When they finally reached a clearing, the beacon pulsed ahead, soft, golden light flickering through the gloom. Cade dropped beside it, sprawled in the grass. I regret every choice that led me here. You survived. Barely. She sat next to him. Not close, not distant. Her posture relaxed for the first time. The simulated sky above faded into twilight, deep violet, stars glimmering faintly. This is peaceful, he said. A constructed peace. Doesn't make it less real. Silence fell. Not awkward, just quiet. Cade turned his head. You always this quiet when you're not stabbing people. She looked up at the stars. Words are not always useful. Sometimes they're all we have. And sometimes silence is more honest. Cade didn't argue. He let the silence stretch, let it become something shared. You fight differently now, she said eventually. Training, or just trying to impress you? It worked. He blinked. She hadn't looked at him. Hadn't smiled. But the words stayed. Cade adjusted the collar of his dress uniform and immediately regretted it. The material scratched his neck like judgment incarnate, and the stiff shoulders made him feel like he was auditioning for a role in a drama about unfortunate tailoring. You look uncomfortable, Ravala observed as she approached. She was in her own formal attire, less armor, more structured ceremonial cloth. The silver filigree tracing her collarbone glinted beneath the station lights. Thanks, he replied, tugging again at the collar. I wanted to channel the spirit of a dehydrated earth lizard in business casual. She tilted her head. I will assume that is humor. I will assume that means you're nervous too. She didn't answer. Behind them, the doors to Chamber 6 loomed open. Inside waited the council, Vortari elders, human diplomats, and a few beings from neutral sectors. Hollow projectors rotated slowly above the central table, displaying freeze frames of the duel, the jungle simulation, and their personal vitals. Cade exhaled. So this is it. What are they meeting? We are symbols now, Ravala said simply. Great. No pressure. They entered together. Silence met them. Not tension, but expectation. A tall, translucent-skinned delegate from the Threll sector gestured them forward. A hollow clicked on, displaying the final moments of their arena fight, Ravala pinning Cade, her expression unreadable. We have questions, said a human officer. Was this strategy, or something else? Cade glanced at Ravala. May I? She nodded. You wanted to see compatibility, he said, stepping toward the display. What you got was something better. Unpredictability. We didn't follow your script. We learned each other's rhythms. We survived together. And we're still here. You imply emotional rapport, a Vortari elder said. I imply connection. Call it what you want. Ravala added quietly, it was not performance. The murmurs began. If this connection is real, said another voice, then we must consider its implications. Cade raised a brow. You mean if a human and a Vortari don't try to kill each other and maybe flirt a little, the galaxy might collapse? Alliances can be fragile. Feelings complicate. Ravala stepped forward. Or feelings clarify. So did the silence that the shuttle bay buzzed with the sounds of refueling drones and mechanical chatter, but Cade barely heard any of it. He stood at the edge of the docking platform, watching stars drift like lazy fireflies in the vast velvet beyond the station. He wasn't supposed to feel this much. Beside him, Ravala stood silent, still dressed in her liaison uniform, formal, clean-lined, efficient. It made her look like a stranger and more herself at the same time. So, Cade said, crossing his arms. This is it. Departure sequence begins in 10 minutes, she replied. No tremble in her voice. No hesitation. Cade glanced sideways. You're really taking the liaison post. Command believes I have insight now. Into your kind. He smirked. I'm not sure that's a compliment to either of us. She didn't laugh. Not exactly. But her gaze softened just enough to warm the cold edge of the moment. And you? She asked. Back to Earth? Maybe. Maybe not. I hear Mars has a great bar scene now. She said nothing. I meant what I said, you know, he added. Back in the council chamber. It wasn't strategy. Her eyes found his. Unreadable, but not uncaring. I know. Cade shifted his weight, hands in pockets, mouth full of words he wasn't sure how to speak. You ever miss the quiet? He asked. Sometimes. But lately, the noise means something. He turned toward her fully. And what does it mean now? It means, I do not wish for you to leave without knowing. She stopped herself. Looked down. Then back up. Your name, she said slowly, I have said it many times. In reports. In exercises. But never like this. Cade's chest tightened. She stepped closer. Cade, when the announcement came, Cade was already halfway through a terrible cup of station-grade coffee. His datapad blinked, briefing room 7A. Final liaison evaluation. Presence required. They never say please, he muttered. Radix chimed from his earpiece. Perhaps because they suspect you wouldn't listen. Fair. He stood, tossed the coffee in a disposal chute, and headed toward the curved corridor that led to the administrative wing. It was quiet, too quiet for a military station. Anticipation thickened the air like static before a storm. Ravala waited outside the room. She didn't speak as he approached. Didn't nod. Didn't smile. But her eyes met his, and that was enough. Inside, the room held only a table and 2 chairs. One for him. One for her. The doors sealed shut. So this is how it ends, he said. No, she said. This is where we choose how it continues. He sat slowly. I like the sound of that. The stars above Unity Station blinked slow and soft, as if the galaxy itself had paused to breathe. Cade stood at the edge of the observation deck, hands braced on the railing, staring into a tapestry too vast to understand. Behind him, quiet footsteps approached. No armor this time. No formal shoes. Bare, soft-footed steps that he would have missed if not for how attuned he'd become to her presence. You're not supposed to be here, he said without turning. Neither are you. He smiled. Good. We still have that in common. Ravala stepped beside him. Her expression was unreadable, but her proximity wasn't. They offered me a permanent posting, she said after a while. They offered me a flight home. And I told them I needed time. To decide. He looked at her. No, just, to see if you'd show up. She turned to him fully. Cade. His name again. This time with something behind it. Not tension. Not curiosity. Hope that the shuttle was ready. Final calls were echoing through the concourse in 6 different languages. Cade had a bag slung over one shoulder and an expression he hadn't worn in years, something like stillness. Not peace, not exactly. Just stillness. Ravala stood opposite him. You don't have to go, she said. And you don't have to stay, he replied. They watched each other in the hum between announcements. People moved past them like currents through a tide gate, officers, tourists, traders, warriors. None of them mattered just now. We're different, she said. That's kind of the point, isn't it? You confuse me. But I don't want that to stop. Cade stepped closer. Then don't let it. Silence again, but not empty. Come with me, he offered. Or stay with me, she countered. They smiled at the same time. One step. Then another. No decisions. Just direction. And a beginning. Weeks passed. Not in silence, not in declarations, just in something quiet and new. Unity Station spun slow above the gas giant Naranthus, casting arcs of gold through its panels. Ships came and went. Alliances tightened, flexed, frayed. But in one sunlit corridor, a human and a Vortari met at the same cafe at the same hour every day, Cade with his hands wrapped around bitter tea, Ravala always arriving exactly 60 seconds late, saying nothing and sitting across from him. No one questioned it anymore. That morning, the clouds below flickered with a storm. Cade watched lightning ripple across the orange planet. He didn't speak. "You are restless," Ravala said. "Habit," he replied. "You're thinking about leaving." "I'm thinking about whether staying is running away." She sipped her drink. "And if it's not?" Cade looked at her. "Then maybe I've already arrived." A mission came. Joint deployment. Small. Off the record. A pirate outpost near the drift edge, where supply lanes got cut and traders went missing. They volunteered together. On the shuttle down, Cade stood near the hatch, heart steady. Ravala adjusted her gear next to him. "Nervous?" she asked. "Always." "You?" "Less than I used to be." "Why?" "You make the unknown feel shared." He grinned. "That's the nicest thing anyone said to me while holding a plasma rifle." She didn't smile. But she didn't look away either. The op went wrong, of course. Halfway through, a calm blackout cut them off. Automated turrets snapped awake. One of their allies was injured. Cade pulled him to cover while Ravala held the high ground. It wasn't elegant. It wasn't perfect. But they survived. And afterward, while waiting for evac, Ravala sat with him beside the burned-out husk of a shuttle wing. "Your aim has improved," she noted. "My motivation's gotten clearer," he replied. She stared at him. "And what is that?" "You." For once, she had no counter. In the weeks that followed, they didn't label it. They didn't need to. He found her in the observation deck some nights. She found him in the gym on others. Their routines bent slowly toward each other, like gravity deciding things quietly. One night, as they watched a comet streak past the distant moons, Cade said, "I don't need a reason to stay anymore." And she replied, "Good. Because I don't want to give you one. I just want to be here. With you." He didn't kiss her. Not yet. But he took her hand. And she didn't let go. The first time Cade kissed her, it was quiet. Not during battle. Not after some life-saving gesture or a moment of adrenaline-soaked drama. No, it was quieter than that. It was in the hallway outside the armory. Late. Artificial night casting soft blue over polished walls. They'd just finished a training session, sweat clung to Cade's collar, Ravala's hair was damp at the edges. They stood close, neither speaking. And then, like breath catching between thoughts, it happened. His hand brushed her wrist. Hers didn't pull away. And his mouth found hers, not with force, but with certainty. She leaned in. Not because she had to. But because she wanted to. In the days that followed, nothing exploded. Nothing was announced. But everything changed. Their training schedules merged. So did their sleep cycles. They still fought. Still argued. Still tested one another's limits. But now there were quiet moments after, his head on her shoulder, her fingers tracing lines along his forearm. "You're still inefficient," she'd whisper. "You're still terrifying," he'd reply. And yet. The galaxy didn't stop spinning. Missions came. Politics churned. Treaties signed and broken. But Unity Station remained their gravity well. One evening, on a return from a planetary conference, Cade leaned against the viewplate beside their quarters. "Do you ever wonder," he said, "how this all started?" Ravala stood beside him, arms folded. "We were assigned to fight. And then? And then you refused to shut up. And I listened. Do you regret it?" "Not even once." He smiled. "Me either. After Unity Station, after the politics and the war games, after the near-deaths and the declarations, they disappeared for a while. Not in exile. Not in retreat. Just, quiet." Cade and Ravala took an assignment in the Karen Expanse, a remote station orbiting an ancient, derelict world wrapped in magnetic storms and myth. Few visited. Fewer stayed. Perfect. They taught cadets. Trained new liaisons. Learned how to live. One morning, long after the second frost season began, Cade woke to find Ravala already outside, barefoot in the red snow. She stood beneath a sky split by 3 moons, her breath misting in the cold, her stance calm. He stepped beside her. "You always did like making me chase you," he murmured. She didn't look at him. "You always followed. Wasn't hard. You shine even in stormlight." She glanced sideways. "You are still a fool. Only for you." She reached out, took his hand. They stood together until the moons dipped, until the red frost turned golden, and silence became more than just comfort. It became memory.